One of the things that we don't like is intrusion in your life. It's true of me and true of everybody. Anything having to do with prevention is an intrusion in your life. So when you use the word nearsightedness, that's intrusion that you do not want. And I accept this. That's why I don't expect an optometrist to do anything, because he would be intruding in your life. And that's not their responsibility. The same way with Joey, Alan, and myself, and our reading like that. To change that, you've got to change the child. And the parents have to understand it that way. If you can't do that, you cannot be successful. And rather than fight about it, I just state it as the way it is. Fortunately, I was able to start prevention for myself when I was 2060. But that was after a long-term study of the eye as a dynamic system. It always was and always will be. But nobody was intruding themselves in my life. This is also true of my immediate relatives. They think that anything I say is an intrusion in their life. Maybe for their own good, don't know. That's their choice. But it must start before we get down to 2050. So here's some commentary. So you can bring this up. There are two ways to be fooled. I hope you read this. And the other is by Margaret Mitchell. Life is under no obligation to give us what we expect. She's the author of Gone with the Wind. So I don't see an optometrist being able to help us. The only thing only optometrist Rupa Wong is helping her own children. Medicine is totally saturation. If you're in medicine, you don't pay attention to much else beyond medicine, which is why I don't expect anyone medical to really help me. For the same reason, no one could help Joey Allen or myself with the habit we both have. And I don't see any change. I don't see the possibility of change unless the man is an educated engineer and understands the concept of the eye as a dynamic system. That's why I always say refractive state as I measure it. Because we believe what we measure ourselves. But even to get a person to measurement encounters a huge obstacle. People don't like to measure anything. And they don't want to take any prevention seriously under any circumstances. I have a friend who's a pilot, Air Force pilot, who wrote a book on the prevention with the plus, and had a daughter, and the daughter was becoming nearsighted. And the daughter refused to wear a plus lens, categorically. And that's why prevention cannot exist in a family unless the person knows what he's doing and takes long-term prevention seriously. Fortunately, because of Frank Young's data, a lot of good qualities and bad qualities. The good quality was being very persistent and being able to get funding from the National Eye Institute. And that funded allowed him to go to Alaska and get refractive profiles for the completely normal eye, my language, where the normal eye living outdoors, no reading, no schoolwork. all had positive refractive state, like I do, and therefore 20/20 vision, if they check. And that data is just pushed off into the trash can because nobody wants to understand the reality of the dynamic eye. Even I don't bother arguing about that. It's reality. The nice thing about being in college is you're isolated. You're not under obligation to publish papers. You're not under obligation to write proposals to the National Eye Institute to get funded for prevention for pilots who would probably do what's required when they understand it. But that's up to them. So the issue still remains, what do you believe? We all want to believe that the eye is a camera, as I believed it in high school. And if I could just tweak the camera a little bit, I would get it in focus. And so the question became, how do I tweak this camera to get it into focus? Change the length a little bit, change the shape of the cornea. If I could just do that, I could go from 20/60 to 20/20. It would be wonderful. If I just do exercise, can I exercise and tweak that camera just a little bit? And that was my logic in high school. I'm trying to figure it out. But my mind was obsessed with cameras since I passed the camera course in high school and the same camera course you get in college. It's always a camera, and if I just change the camera a little bit, you can't change the camera. The eye's not a camera. That's the completely normal eye doesn't know anything about that. All it knows is I have a refractive average value of accommodation. And as a control system, I'm going to change my refractive state to match the average of accommodation. It's an intuitively obvious thing you think about in college when you're not thinking about the public or prescribing a lens or satisfying the ignorance of the public, because they always think that way. In fact, it's pointless to argue this in optometry because you know the public's not going to understand it. They'll be sitting there. Why does the doctor want me to tweak my eye length by doing exercise or whatever you want to say? And why does he want me to look at a Snellen and go from 20/40 to 20/20? And they'll say, I'm not going to do it. Doesn't make any sense to me. Wear a plus for prevention or to go from 20/40 to 20/50. Why would I want to change my refractive state from the slight negative value to positive value and get back to 20/20? Why would anybody want to do that? He must be Bates' follower. And of course, everybody in medicine knows that Bates was wrong because Bates thought the eye was dynamic to a certain extent. And they all know Bates was wrong. So Bates becomes a whipping boy by optometrists, somebody to ridicule as having a wrong belief. And he couldn't prove it anyway. Therefore, we'll ignore anybody who talks about avoiding, preventing, staying out of, or talks even about, think about all eyes as dynamic systems. So it all depends on what you, by your background, are willing to believe. And certainly reviewing all of Frank Young's data and more lately primate data measured as a refractive state, please do it that way. And then change the average of accommodation and watch this control system change its refractive state as per the average of accommodation. Somehow you got to throw out that rickety camera idea you have in your head, because as long as it's there, it will block all your understanding. But even I accept that Joey and Alan and I could not be helped given our vision habits, Game Boy, and the tendency of child to do this, a lot of that. The parents have no idea what consequences are when a child is doing that. They can't stop it, and the child won't stop it. And so the whole issue falls on the floor, and nothing will be done. Nobody will change, and the problem will go on as before forever. If you think I'm wrong, please tell me why I'm wrong. Yeah, I have friends talk about this. So when they begin to realize I'm probably right, they stop talking to me. That's the way it is. If you have any further commentary, I certainly appreciate Lampsight. We have different professions, different beliefs, but we all want to see prevention exist before you start wearing a minus lens in our own way. Thank you. Add your own commentary.